potential fixes for the configuration of the comm system, okay? We call this the rule of two, or the sword and the stone. Essentially, management smart team. Essentially what that means is a wizard and a witch, okay? Essentially, the wizard essentially represents a person with the ART, low volume recognition ability, that interfaces with Pentagon, basically, in those ways. That is a constant system. And that then the witch system is during response, the like normal kind of ideas that would be utilized. That person is there to receive those messages and then to speak face to face to the person doing the interfacing with the military intelligence. And it's meant to maintain this kind of connection, but also to be getting the ability of getting these pieces of information in a confirmed face-to-face way, instead of a lot of times what happens in this situation is if the volume goes up, that based on these being around the world in different weird dark webs and shit, has other people placing in what would be potentials for bad information or something. This person essentially can be isolated down to this, basically. And that then it comes in the rule of two, where this person hears it and then speaks it for two. And then it becomes more of like what would be a theoretical idea that gets utilized in a confirmation way. And that then, a lot of times, anything that comes here in a smart way out of this then has a chance to be analyzed at for if it's even smart in any way. And then that keeps these peoples off until this happens, basically. And that would be, this could theoretically be for a president and his wife. Because see, the whole idea is that when loud happens, that has a potential in this system for like a president to be bombarded by hackers all over the place with similar sounding stuff that may not be the message, and that essentially a president is linked in to a cross comm system, and that basically what would be like a loud message could easily be bitched off onto an iPad or something in an audio like way, okay? So that's the whole idea, is the importance of keeping loudspeaker essentially out of commanders and presidents and shit. That's important because loudspeaker can easily be used constantly to be torturing them into suicide, which is what the potentials are. And what the smartest thing to do is to always be preventing a loudspeaker in your main manager, basically. And that essentially you could potentially have like a witch and like a gay dude or something if you were like a vice president or something like that. And then the gay dude could sit in the capacity of having a silent speaker until there's some sort of real response, threat response idea. And then that could always be maintaining a senator or a vice president or a congressperson. And that is probably where essentially all that represents, is that a lot of these military guys shove their dicks down their throats for a blackmail into the Pentagon's dark web. Then they become a witch. Basically. And so that is where you don't necessarily have to have a gay dude, but they would be this in the same overall kind of idea. And that is essentially how you can approach that in that way. And so that is kind of where this is meant to be a generic fix for a whole NATO system that would essentially be activated. See, it's like if there was a potential for a terror plot, if they saw some plane on a trajectory or something, all of NATO's comm system like this would activate. It would, because there's potentials for one or many. And that essentially in other countries that are NATO, it would be about assessing stuff. Pegasus turns on, they get a look, the massive Sentinel AI starts doing some massive civil rights violations, but only during response, basically. And so the whole idea is that if you mess with one country, there's potential for other countries having a similar situation happening. And so that is the theory on the NATO threat level top response or something like that. And so that is where this is probably a better kind of, it's a better way to do that. And that essentially the national security iPad or something can double as a comm iPad for this whatever the audio that's. You always want to minimize. See, this minimizes the loud sound torture ability for both people. Because if there's no super threat level activation happening, then these people won't be sound tortured with a loud volume. And then if you constantly keep this not on, then that prevents the ability for hackers of sound torturing people into basically suicide. So that is something about the comm stuff that probably wasn't necessarily envisioned. The reality is that everybody ends up, when that stuff turns on, and when they can't get it turned off, then a bunch of people that came in pedo bang Republican skull banger land sit around waiting for everybody to pedo bang into their stupid. And that then everybody's blackmailed together, and then everybody doesn't like bust anybody. That's their top level geniusness idea on covering up their own fuck up in life. So that type of stuff isn't really acceptable in a modern age, and that a real solution needs to be something that doesn't have to have people horribly blackmailing into a satanic S&M system controlled by Islamic terrorists.